In FIFA 18, Marco Asensio was 84 overall with 92 potential. Fast forward 7 years later and now he is just 80 overall with no potential. Today we save Marco Asensio's career. And here he is, of course, currently playing for Aston Villa on loan from PSG. We have changed him a little bit. We have moved him back into that attacking midfielder role. Of course, as he is getting a little bit older, his legs are going a tiny bit, so that role is a lot better suited to him. And thanks to that, he is already up to an 81 overall. But of course, we do want to get that higher and higher, so training it is for Marco Asensio. Kicking off the first game of the season, and we are currently being used, of course, as a substitute as we face West Ham. It was not the best start, as we did give away a penalty, which Fulkrug did manage to slot home to make it 2-1 for West Ham. Although Ollie Watkins later on would get through on goal, and he managed to bag another one to equalise the game at 2-2. Unfortunately, we did give away another penalty, which again was slotted home from Fulkrug to make it 3-2 to West Ham. Although Marco Asensio wanted to make an impact on his debut, and he done exactly that, cutting inside and managing to find space to put it into the back of the net to equalise the game at 3-3, managing to get a draw here against West Ham. So not a bad little impact from Marco Asensio as he ends his first game on a 7.4 rating. Second game of the season, and we are still being used as a substitute as we do come up against Arsenal, and we were 1-0 down in this game, so we really had to make an impact, and he done exactly that. Marco Asensio managing to run through the whole Arsenal team before slotting it into the back of the net, managing to make it 1-1 in what is a questionable Puskas goal there. And later on, Marco Asensio managing to dink it over the top to Ollie Watkins, who did manage to slot it home to get an assist from Marco Asensio as we ended up winning the game 2-1. And of course, it was an unbelievable performance from him, so he walks away with a nice 9.1 rating. Third game of the season, and that game was seemingly enough to prove our point as we are into the starting 11 up against Leicester. And although Marco Asensio did not get any goal contributions this game, he did make some very nice chances with a nice ball to Watkins, which he missed, managing to dribble through the whole defence again, unfortunately though blocked last minute, although we did get a penalty from Ollie Watkins, which he did slot home, where we did manage to win the game at 1-0. And it was another good appearance for Marco Asensio as he did walk away with a 7.5 out of 10, and he has solidified his place in that starting 11. 4 games into the season, and Aston Villa are currently sat in second place. And of course, it's been a very good start for Marco Asensio here, as he's walking away with 3 goals and 2 assists in just 7 games for Aston Villa. Although, as it was going extremely well for Marco Asensio, we had to have some bad news, didn't we? And it was an awful injury. A torn quadricep muscle puts him out for 3 months. 3 months later, and Marco Asensio could be making his return pretty soon. And his comeback is here as we face Newcastle, of course, coming on as a substitute to ease us back into it. Although Marco Asensio's form did not slip, as he did manage to assist Ollie Watkins to add on to the score sheet to make it a 3-0 victory over Newcastle. Halfway through the season now, and Aston Villa are joint top alongside Liverpool, sitting on 36 points each. Also still in the FA Cup as we face Bristol Rovers, and we are actually into the semi-final of the Carabao Cup where we face Liverpool. And the Champions League isn't going the best as we are sat in 17th. And Marco Asensio up to an 82 overall. I feel like it could have been a lot higher if we did not have that injury, although 7 goals and 3 assists in 14 games has not been a bad start for him at all. Moving on though, and of course we are into the semi-final of the Carabao Cup where we face Liverpool. Unfortunately though, we do lose the first leg 2-1, and although we tried our best, Marco Asensio scoring in the 6th minute, we did lose the game 3-2 on aggregate. Into the Champions League qualifying round up against Benfica, and we did draw the first game at 1-1, and in the second game we did manage to beat them 2-1. That of course means we are into the round of 16 of the Champions League, and we have not been done nicely as we come up against Bayern Munich. Although the first leg has not gone too bad as we drew 2-2. Although in the second leg we got completely obliterated 4-1, getting knocked out of the Champions League in the round of 16. Into the round of 16 of the FA Cup as we come up against Chesterfield, and we do manage to beat them convincingly 4-1. That means we are into the quarter-finals where we face Leicester, and we do manage to beat them 2-0. That of course means we are into the semi-finals and we come up against Arsenal, and we do actually manage to get past them, beating them 3-1, which gives us a ticket into the FA Cup final. And that final is was against the team that knocked us out of the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup in Liverpool. And it was not the best start as Mohamed Salah stepped up with a penalty, which of course he did dink into the corner, which the keeper was never going to get to make it 1-0. Although later on in the game, Watkins would play through Marlon. The defender went flying, Marlon got in and managed to put it into the back of the net, of course, to equalise at 1-1. And the winning goal of the game would come from an unbelievable goal from Marco Asensio, managing to do Van Dijk and doing the other defender with a roulette to, of course, give us a 2-1 victory over Liverpool, which of course means Marco Asensio lifts his first trophy of the video. Finishing the season, and Aston Villa have qualified for the Champions League yet again as they're finished in 4th place. Unfortunately, getting knocked out in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup to Liverpool and getting knocked out of the Champions League, losing 6-3 to Bayern Munich. Although we did manage to pick up some silverware as we won the FA Cup with Aston Villa. And Marco Asensio has gotten himself back up to an 86 overall. Of course, this is his best overall ever in any FIFA, so he is of course getting better and better. And it has been a pretty good season overall for Marco Asensio. 12 goals and 11 assists in 47 games. Of course, we do have to remember he had that horrible injury in the middle of the season, so overall a pretty good season for Marco Asensio. Unfortunately though, the loan at Aston Villa has come to an end, so we need to select a new team, and we have a nice offer here from Napoli, which is looking pretty convincing. And so season number 2 starts off with Marco Asensio moving to Napoli, and kicking off his time at Napoli, we do come up against Juventus. It was a pretty frustrating time for Marco Asensio, linking up some play here and slotting through Victor Osimhen in what looked like a guaranteed goal, although the keeper managed to save it. Ademola Lookman had the ball over the top, which he did slot perfectly into the back of the net to give Juventus a 1-0 lead. Although Asensio would get involved as Osimhen slotted him through, and he did have a lovely placement there to finish it, to of course make it 1-1. And thankfully we did recover the game to make it a 1-1 draw. 4 games into the season, and it is not the best start for Napoli as they are sat in 6th place. Marco Asensio is now up to an 87 overall, and he is starting to look pretty insane. It's also not been a bad start for him. 2 goals and 2 assists in 7 games. It can definitely improve, but overall not a bad start. Halfway through the season now, and Napoli have crept up a tiny bit as they are sat in 5th place. The Conference League though is going pretty good as Napoli are sat in 1st place, and Marco Asensio just keeps getting better and better, now up to an 88 overall. And it has been a much better season for Asensio so far. 12 goals and 9 assists in 27 games is pretty damn impressive. Into the round of 16 of the Coppa Italia as we come up against Palermo, and we do manage to beat them 4-1. Into the quarter-finals of the Coppa Italia up against Roma, we do just about manage to get through, beating them 5-4 on penalties. Into the semi-finals, and we have a big game up against Juventus, and the first game ends in another 1-1 draw, although in the second leg we do manage to obliterate them 4-2, giving us a victory 5-3 on aggregate. Into the quarter-finals of the Conference League, and we do manage to beat Sevilla 3-2 in the first leg, thanks to 2 goals from Marco Asensio. It's a close second leg though, although we do manage to get through 4-3 on aggregate. That of course puts us into the semi-final where we come up against Lens. The first leg is just a 2-2 draw, although in the second leg we do manage to get through, beating them 4-2 on aggregate. Before the Europa League final though, we do have the Coppa Italia final up against Inter Milan, and it was domination from Napoli. Victor Osimhen slotted through Marco Asensio, who of course put it top bins to make it 1-0, and later on Marco Asensio would slot through Victor Osimhen, and Victor Osimhen does his man, and of course smacks it into the back of the net to make it 2-0. Of course winning the game at 2-0 and managing to pick up another trophy for Marco Asensio. Moving on though, and of course we are into another final. It's a Conference League up against Manchester City. We started off strong, saving a penalty from Haaland, although Raspadori later on would get a last minute winner, managing to of course score to make it 1-0, picking up the victory over Manchester City and getting trophy number 3 for Marco Asensio. Finishing the league now, and Napoli did finish in 5th place, of course missing out on Champions League football yet again, although managing to pick up the Coppa Italia, beating Inter Milan 2-0, and of course picking up the Conference League, beating Man City 1-0. And it has been an insane season of growth for Marco Asensio as he is now up to an unbelievable 91 overall, of course just 1 overall away from his FIFA 18 potential, and he has definitely had an overall unbelievable season. 29 goals and 18 assists in 59 games for Napoli is just unbelievable, and it was more than enough to impress Spain's manager as we have been selected for the World Cup. Kicking off the first game of the group stage, and we did come up against Norway, and it was a close 3-2 win. Second game of the World Cup, we did come up against Morocco, and we did manage to beat them 2-1. third game in the group stage. We guaranteed to go through at this point, but we did come up against Denmark, and it was another win as we beat them 2-1. Into the knockout stage now, though, and we have Ghana in the round of 16, and we did manage to beat them, although it was 3-2 in another close game. Into the quarter-final, and we come up against Czech Republic, and we did have a nice 2-0 win with Marco Asensio scoring early. Into the semi-finals of the World Cup, and it's a big game up against Germany, although we do get a huge win, and it's a 2-0 victory over Germany. Into the final of the World Cup, and it is a repeat of the Euros as we come up against England. Jadon Sancho in a dangerous position here. Try and get that ball off him if we can. We can't. He goes Bellingham, and Bellingham strikes, and of course it finds the back of the net just 5 minutes in, and we're 1-0 down. Ball through Marco Asensio. He's got a bit of space on his body. He's going to go for it, but he's completely skied it. Oh no, England on the attack again. He's got way too much space there. Bellingham. Nice block though, thankfully. Lamine Yamal slots it through to Samu. Samu is through on goal. Surely he's going to tuck that, and he is. We needed that big time as we do draw at 1-1. Nice, Asensio. He's got Samu making a run. He finds him perfectly. Samu is through again. Is he going to slot it home yet again? And of course he is. Slots it home, of course, to make it 2-1. And we take the lead in this game. Pedri on the edge of the box. Out to Oyarzabal. Trying to work a way around. It's straight at the keeper though. Okay, Saka up this wing. He's completely obliterated our man. Saka goes for goal and he equalises 2-2. What a first half this is. Pedri, edge of the box, into Asensio. What can he do here? It's still Asensio. Dribbling through. Asensio goes for goal, and what a finish that is just before the half to make it 3-2 for Spain. Harry Kane dribbling through, goes for goal. What an awful shot that was. Lamine Yamal up this wing, uses Marco Asensio. Marco Asensio going to power shot this. Oh, and there we go. Game over. Spain have managed to win the World Cup, managing to beat England in yet another final. And that, of course, means there's another trophy lifted for Asensio. It is a huge one, and that is the World Cup. And winning the World Cup has put huge eyes on us as we are getting eyed up by our former team, Real Madrid. And, of course, we are going to accept this. So, of course, season number 3 starts off with Marco Asensio going back to Real Madrid, kicking off the first game back in Madrid colours, and Marco Asensio is facing Girona. And it was a good start for Marco Asensio as he slotted through Rodrigo. Rodrigo managed to beat his man, and of course he slotted it into the far post to make it 1-0 for Real Madrid. And later on, Marco Asensio would be involved yet again, this time doing his man and slotting through the striker, who of course manages to finish it to give us a nice 2-0 victory over Girona. 4 games into the season, and Real Madrid are currently sat in 4th place, and it has been the season of assists so far for Marco Asensio, as he's got no goals but 4 assists in 7 games. Halfway through the season, and Real Madrid have of course took the lead by 11 points as they are sat in 1st place. We are of course into the semi-finals of the Supercopa as we face Atletico Madrid, and of course into the round of 32 of the Copa de España as again we face Atletico Madrid. And the Champions League is going pretty good as we are sat in 4th place. And Marco Asensio has finally reached his FIFA 18 potential as he is coming in as a 92 overall at 30 years of age, and his stats are looking pretty nuts. And it's been a pretty good season overall again for Marco Asensio. 14 goals and 9 assists in 27 games. Definitely getting involved back in this Real Madrid team. Into the semi-finals of the Supercopa though, as we come up against Atletico Madrid, and we do manage to beat them 3-2. That of course puts us into the final up against Barcelona, and there was just 1 goal in it. It came from Kylian Mbappe, who managed to get through, putting it into the back of the net, of course to give us a 1-0 win and giving Marco Asensio yet another trophy. Into the round of 32 of the Copa de España, and we do get a decent 1-0 victory. That of course means we are into the round of 16. They did push us into extra time, although thankfully we did manage to beat them 5-3. Into the quarter-finals of the Copa de España, and we do get a nice 2-0 win. That of course means we are into the semi-finals up against Bilbao, and we get a nice 3-1 win in the first leg, and we do get another ticket to the final as we beat them 4-2 in aggregate. Moving back into the Champions League though, and we are into the round of 16 up against Bayer Leverkusen, and the first leg ends at 3-3, although in the second leg we do manage to get through, beating them 5-4 in aggregate thanks to Marco Asensio. Into the quarter-final of the Champions League up against Borussia Dortmund, and the first leg ends at 1-1, although in the second leg we did manage to beat them 2-1, beating them 3-2 on aggregate. Into the semi-finals of the Champions League, and we come up against former team Aston Villa, and the first leg ends in a 1-1 draw, although in the this second leg, we did manage to go through, beating them 3-2 on aggregate. Moving back into the Copa de España, and we had the final up against Valencia. And again, it was domination from Real Madrid. Rodrigo managed to get through in a lovely solo goal, dribbling past so many players, smack it into the back of the net to, of course, make it 1-0 for Real Madrid. And later on, we did have a penalty. Marco Asensio stepping up for this one, and he did manage to put it into the back of the net to, of course, make it 2-0 for Real Madrid, managing to win the game and picking up another trophy for himself. Moving on though, and of course we could make it another trophy this season as we come up against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. Nice. Rodrigo slots through Marco Asensio. It could be through very early here. Marco Asensio stops, comes back, makes itself awkward for himself, and it's saved. Olise down this wing is looking pretty dangerous. Dribbles inside into Harry Kane. Passes back again to Jamal Musiala, but thankfully the keeper's on it. Marco Asensio has got runners ahead of him. Mbappe to Rodrigo. Rodrigo back to Marco Asensio. That is lovely play. Marco Asensio is saved again from Courtois. Asensio got space, passes through to Rodrigo. That is a lovely ball. Rodrigo's got time, goes for goal. It's another save. What do we have to do to beat him? Asensio through to Rodrigo. Surely this time it's going to be it. Rodrigo goes for goal, and there we go. Eventually, just after half time, we managed to pick up a goal, eventually beating Courtois. Marco Asensio dribbling forward here, managing to get past his man. Still Marco Asensio. He's dribbling through the whole team. Marco Asensio inside, goes for a goal, and what a goal that is. Courtois, what's he doing? Surely he's got to be off for that. He just pushed him over, but Marco Asensio makes it 2-0. Game is about to be over. Surely that's it. Ref, blow your whistle. And there we go. Real Madrid have managed to win the Champions League, and more importantly, Marco Asensio has managed to win the Champions League. And there we go. Another trophy being lifted for Marco Asensio. It's another huge one, and of course, it's the Champions League. Finishing the season, and we have, of course, obliterated the league as well, managing to win by 10 points, which, of course, gives us another trophy, meaning we win the quadruple this season. And of course, Marco Asensio managing to reach his FIFA 18 potential, going up to a 92 overall, which is just insane. And it has been an unbelievable season for Marco Asensio. 39 goal contributions in 63 games, 20 goals, 19 assists, along with picking up the quadruple with Real Madrid off of the back of winning the World Cup with Spain. I would say Marco Asensio's career has been well and truly saved.